Welcome to the CAS YouTube channel. My name is Michael Wynn, and today I have the honor and privilege to speak with re-recording mixer Eric Hoehn to discuss his work on Netflix hit TV series The Queens Gambit. Eric is a CAS award recipient for outstanding achievement in sound mixing, and today we'll have a conversation with him, taking a deep dive into some of his mixing methodologies, some of the tools that he uses, and what went into creating the show. Eric, how are you doing today?
Doing well, Michael. Happy to be here.
So Eric, when I had a chance to rewatch the middle game episode earlier today, I could not help but notice how the perspectives were flawless. And meaning that when I was listening to the dialogue and how it was captured, I was really getting a sense of space. And it seemed like Roland Winka and his team were really able to capture some quality dialogue. How was that for you guys in post working with that?
Yeah, I mean, we can't say enough how great of a job Roland did. It's never an easy job as a production sound mixer on I think it was a 5 or 6 month shoot, and 7 episodes of content. Those are, they're shooting a lot of footage. So he really provided us with the raw materials and just amazing recordings of all the dialogue and lots of boom angles and lots of great lavalier recordings, lots of great plant mics, just really logical, really intelligent work.
So Eric, in a recent article written by writer Jennifer Warren, you spoke about the Cutting Room 2.0 approach. And I quote, "The Cutting Room 2.0 approach made the marriage of sound and picture seamless, requiring less effort while producing a superior result." Tell us about how that process works, its origination, and how it affects your team's workflow, both technically and creatively.
Sure. Yeah, well, we really started the process with Michelle Tesoro, picture editor, and Scott Frank, director, on Godless, which was a 2017 Netflix limited series. It was a Western set in the 1800s. And there were a lot of horses and gunshots and all of the classic, ride-ups and ride-aways that you would get in a Western. And so what we really wanted to do was work in parallel with the picture editing process. And so what that means is actually going and setting up a kind of a mini dubbing stage down the hall from where Michelle was actually cutting the picture. And we had full projection, 120-inch screen, an S6 16 fader mixing console, and we pretty much were mixing the show every time we were getting turnover from Michelle. So we'd either get it in reels or in long play episodes, and our goal was to really within 24, 48 hours turn back over to her stems for her Avid that contained mixed dialogue, sound effects updates, prototype mixing of the music, and really make it screenable for her and Scott to watch.
So you guys actually worked with director Scott Frank, who was a writer-director for Queens Gambit, also on Godless.
Absolutely, yeah. And so we had developed this workflow of a lot of people have called it also a rolling mix, which is something that lets you basically, instead of saving the mixing till the very end, we were actually doing mixing from the first turnover, from the first scene turnover. And that requires a lot of technical back-end preparation in terms of building out a Pro Tools session template that's going to be not only what me as the mixer needs in terms of sends and returns and plug-in processing and all that kind of stuff, but also something that I can collaborate with other people on our sound team so that they can edit directly within the session, and we can be able to use this session back and forth and share things and sort of create a set of rules in terms of how to utilize the tracks and how to organize things, because just as important in this process as it is to mix and do all the creation process, maintenance is an incredibly important thing. So conforms and the overall maintenance of the mix automation and keeping all of that going is is really essential to this cutting room 2.0 process.
Yeah, I'd imagine just, with you guys were approaching doing this mix, during 2020, right in the middle of the global pandemic. So I'd imagine that working in this way, created and required some technical necessities for your team. Talk about some of the processes that you had to implement that you were able to actually do these final mixes and reviews so everyone would be able to hear and
Yeah.
review.
Yeah, and it was as much of an engineering challenge as it was, any sort of creative challenge and focus challenge. Final mix is such a intense experience for everyone involved because it's really where all the final decisions have to be made, and the next, it's see you at the premiere after that. So we really wanted to make it a magical experience, something that was like, hey, we're going to make the most of this unfortunate situation where we can't all be in the room at the same time together, but we're going to find tools and workflows that will make it feel like we're all in the same room. So what that meant was we really leaned heavily on Source Connect, which was just an amazing tool, and I think a lot of sound people found that to be the case as well. The challenge for us was we had Scott and Michelle in New York. We had another executive producer upstate New York, in a music studio, and then we had Carlos Rafael Rivera, the composer, who is very very involved in our final mixes, and Godless as well. Between him and music editor Tom Kramer, there's so much music in this series, and its music plays such an important role. So we had to make sure that Carlos had a feed as well, and he's in Miami at his home studio. So we had three from the studio at Wiley Stateman's studio in Topanga. We had three Source Connect feeds sending out to these three places, and so anytime I hit play on the S6 console, it immediately sent timecode and audio feeds to those three places. And of course, there were times it just wouldn't work perfectly, and our very analog solution to that was just to hold up, have any of them hold up no sync or no sound, or different pieces of paper with stuff written on them, because Wiley and I had the Zoom window up on a laptop next to us, and I would just, every time I hit play, I'd look over at the screen and make sure, is everyone chasing along? And if everyone was looking off into their screen, then I knew, like, okay, we're good. You can kind of sit back and enjoy, the playback. But it wasn't perfect. But I think at the end of the day, it was great because we could watch something, we could stop. Scott or Michelle or Tom or Carlos could give notes, could quickly just mix them and a little louder, a little quieter, something like that, or let's try a different treatment for that, or the typical things you would find on a final mix, notes, and it was really a natural process.
Yeah, I mean, I can imagine that. I mean, being able to use all of those tools to the fullest extent. I mean, Source Connect's been around since 2004, and then having to combine all of those difficult, elements and solve all of those challenges was really some amazing technical innovation. With all of the user and listening devices, like someone might be listening on a laptop or an iPad or whatever, is that a consideration for you? And is there techniques or things that you approach in your mix to help make sure that the playback on all mediums is consistent?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're, with any kind of Netflix and streaming content, we're very aware that audiences are going to be watching this on sound, at best sound bars, and at worst, literally on the speaker of the iPhone, or which, iPhones and iPads are starting to sound pretty good. Kudos to Apple for putting, great technology into these devices. But I think what I've learned from my mentors, people like Wiley and other mixers that I've worked with, veteran mixers that I've worked with, is that to build out clarity in a mix, it's a mission of reduction. If you want something to be louder, that usually means you need to turn something else down. instead of trying to keep build things louder, louder, louder. When someone, gives you feedback and says, could we try that Foley bit a little louder? Well, I think it's just building habits to always think, well, what else is going on here that I could turn down? And that's sort of the default method that's going through my head every time I'm getting a piece of feedback from someone, whether it's Wiley, whether it's Scott or Michelle or anyone else on the sound team. It's really thinking of it that way first. And then obviously, if you're trying to create something bold and punchy, then by all means, go big.
What were some of the moments for you? What were some of the special moments during the mixing process of the show? Were there moments where you received some of Wiley's sound design work or Carlos' amazing scoring work and were just, tell us about some of those experiences for you.
Yeah, I think, it's really this idea, and this is, a thing that Wiley likes to say a lot, which is thinking of sound and a sound mix as a parade. Going into these chess matches, a lot of them are handoffs from the lack of the sparseness of the music and the quiet vibe in the room, and you could hear a pin drop kind of feeling, and really creating those moments where you have sound effects and sound design and the ambience and the Foley and the movement and all of this very textured real sounds, how that then hands off to music. And sometimes it's not just handing off to music in terms of oh, here's the start of a cue, so sound effects need to just get out of the way for this whole cue. What Carlos is doing is he's building movements, and he's building layers, and he's building changes cut by cut, or sometimes shot by shot. Sometimes he's really great at playing different moods based on what's happening on screen, and so for us, it's also playing off of those. If this is a moment for Carlos to take, and then there's a residual moment for sound design, sound effects. That's a lot of the conversations that Wiley's having with Carlos, and he's spending a lot of his time thinking about those things and getting those in front of Scott and Michelle very early on, so that by the time we're mixing it, it's really just to polish and to really discover what other things we can tease out of those moments. Wiley and I have this discussion where there's a lot of discussions during mixes on other projects where it's us and them, meaning us, the sound design, and them, the music. And I think what we're always trying to do is figure out ways to integrate with music as soon as possible and as early as possible. Music is just such an amazing element to any soundtrack and any mix that we're just completely want to support Carlos and Tom and their mission, and really figure out ways to complement what they're doing, or figure out sound design methods that can live on the edges of what they're doing, and also inspire them when possible. I think delivering them tracks that sound effect stems and dialogue stems, I think they benefit as well from having at least even the idea of what we're thinking of in terms of the sharpness of the chess pieces, or the thickness of the backgrounds, or things like that. And then obviously the biggest one is the sound pressure of the dialogue. All of those things are really important for them to know while they're composing the music and constructing the music. Having all of that yields a much more efficient process. When a traditional process means that mixing and sound process means that people are working in on their own, in their own silo, which I think more and more this is happening less and less, because schedules are getting more condensed, and there's more people who are, I think more sound people are becoming more accustomed to this workflow, which is if you're a dialogue editor, you want to know what the sound effects are doing, or you want to know what the music's doing. And those things are really important in terms of prioritizing what exactly you need to do as if you're a specialist. So if you're a dialogue editor, knowing, well, do I need to cut a lot of fill here because there's going to be a lot of backgrounds, or there's going to be this or that. And so you can, we're constantly encouraging our team to overlap with the various disciplines in order to find those efficiencies.
What is it like for you to just be a part of this experience and to experience this work of all of this creative talent with your sound team, and working closely with the director and editor? Like what is that like for you to accomplish that? How does that feel?
Yeah, it feels great. I think you never know when, I think a lot of people in this industry, you never know when you're going to work on something that's a hit. I think one of the biggest challenges I have when working on something is you're trying to maintain objectivity, as how is the audience going to feel when they watch this? And it's sometimes really hard to do when you're watching something 100 times, 200 times, playing the same scenes over and over again. I think you're constantly trying to refresh your mind and look at it, fresh a new time. So honestly, it's an amazing thing to have the reception that it's had, and it's fun to family and friends and things like that, and people who really enjoyed it, and really cherishing that. But at the same time, I think it's just a testament to, again, developing shorthands with filmmakers. I think there's so much that happened on Godless that we developed really great habits. And I think everyone involved in the process developed really great habits in terms of the sound and music, and being able to develop our own method of approvals, and the time that everyone needed to do their work. I think had we just left things to all meet each other for the first time at the final mix, you wouldn't have been able to have, as clear and concise of a mix, and of things feeling like they're really meshing and jamming and working together. It really all comes back to, again, trust from the filmmakers, and approaching the whole process, even from as a sound mixer, as a sound designer, approaching it as a filmmaker, approaching it like looking for every opportunity for sound or for music to shine, and that's where the mission of finding really articulate opportunities to make a perspective, or even something as simple as someone turning their head and adding a little bit of an EQ move on that, and making things feel three-dimensional. I think that's our mission, and a lot of that work fortunately translates down as you get to smaller speakers or headphones or any of those types of things. It's just sometimes just even gets better and gets more deliberate feeling, which is great.
And you spoke about the importance of the relationships that you build in the filmmaking process. And what are the dynamics, maybe for those who are watching this who don't have the experience that you do, let's say, who are trying to figure out how to work with a director in the post-production process as a re-recording mixer? Any advice you could give out there as far as like how to establish and build those relationships?
Yeah, I think it's always about leading with your expertise, and letting the filmmakers know that you are there to take this worry about sound completely off their plate, and just like anything in life, you have to do that through actions. I think it's good in the first initial meeting to say things like that, and get them excited. But I think it's about building out those habits day in and day out, and really living and breathing what that means. And so that means really thinking about anything that's going to come out of the speaker in terms of the soundtrack, the music, the dialogue. Everything has to be on your radar as a sound designer, and everything has to be considered and thought about. And I think, and you have to have be ready to have an opinion or to have a plan to present to that director that's going to work in the best interest of their vision.
So, Eric, thank you so much for your time today, and I appreciate you being here.
Yeah, thank you, Michael. I'm happy to be involved in this YouTube channel launch. The Cinema Audio Society has been an organization that I've really looked up to, as I was throughout my whole progress in terms of becoming a re-recording mixer and pursuing this career. I think it's played such an important role for me and the access that they give. So I'm just happy to be a part of this, and hopefully finding ways to inspire the next generation to think about film sound as a reputable career path.
Absolutely. And thank you, Eric, for being here. And speaking of, be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the notifications bell so you can be notified about future videos on the channel, as we will be launching content here in the future. So I'll look forward to seeing everyone very soon.